Welcome back to the Chevy American Revolution 400 pre-race show here in Richmond, Virginia, counting it down to the race. And hot off the presses announced this weekend, NASCAR's tentative 2005 Nextel Cup schedule. These drivers will have to deal with it. The race at the California Speedway is now second, right behind the Daytona 500. Then an open week, then Las Vegas, Atlanta, another open week. That's for Easter. Then it's Bristol, Martinsville, and the first of 2 races in Texas. Phoenix will now have 2 races on the Fox schedule, moving up. Rockingham has been dropped. Darlington down to 1 race, which will be held on the Saturday night before Mother's Day, and that's the schedule for Fox through next season. And Darrell, I noticed NASCAR, when they announced this, they attached the word tentative to this. What exactly does that mean?
That means that there's probably some more to this story that we don't know about.
Other dates?
I still think that this is awfully early to be announcing the schedule. We've never done it this early before. I think this was to kind of get the lawsuit put to bed. I wouldn't be surprised to see some more races added, maybe even some more tracks lose a date. Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, when you talk about tracks possibly losing a date, a lot of people right now are very scared that the fact that ISC have bought Martinsville Speedway is maybe the fact they may lose one of their dates. I mean, I know that a lot of people are concerned about that. And when you talk about that, hey, what's going to happen to the short track program?
Yeah, well, I think what's going to happen is that date is at Darlington now. Right. That's going to go to Kansas City probably sooner than later.
And Kentucky, maybe another one, and places like Pocono, Martinsville.
I'd love to see a race in Kentucky.
Might be in trouble. What about the West Coast swing? Some people like that in the big picture, obviously.
Obviously, we got a lot of fans out on the West Coast, but the biggest thing right now, and Darrell, maybe the reason why they announced the schedule so early, a lot of these teams have got to start preparing for next year now, getting extra transporters. That's a lot of traveling going on early in the season.
All right, let's move on now as we leave the schedule behind and look ahead to tonight's race. The eyes of fans, drivers, and even NASCAR control will be on Tony Stewart. Over the past couple of races, Tony has been in, out, and around all kinds of controversy. In fact, Stewart's recent quote was this: "NASCAR is like the Waltons on steroids."
Tony Stewart, here he gets the 21 lifted up off the ground.
Trouble in turn 3, a huge multi-car crash.
Sounds like Stewart started it all. He started a lot of things this year.
You know, everybody can say what they want, and the fans are going to say what they want to.
Contact, Tony Stewart and the 2 of Rusty Wallace.
The Stewart guy, man, I'll tell you, I don't know what's going on there. I like to take that finger and jam it right his rear end, I'll tell you that.
Oh, and Stewart gets together with Gordon.
That wasn't even close. That's pathetic.
I tell you, I don't know what's wrong with that boy.
Let's get out trackside live. Join Matt Yoakum, who's with Tony Stewart. Matt?
Chris, a few random incidents starting with Bristol. And Tony, are people making too much about the on-track stuff, or there may be some hidden frustrations over the fact you haven't won yet this year?
There's no hidden frustrations. I think the people that are blowing it out of proportion are, you know, Mike Joy and Larry McReynolds and Darrell Waltrip in the booth. Nobody else has been complaining about it. You know, but Rusty and I talked when we saw each other, you know, 2 days ago at the airport, and we were just kind of laughing about it and shook hands and went on. And, you know, our fans at Sedalia, Missouri and Knoxville, Iowa that came out to watch us run the sprint car, they stood out in the rain for a half hour in the rain to get autographs. So it's funny. I keep watching the replays of the race after I get home and listening to Darrell and Mike Joy and McReynolds. It's like you keep watching the screen waiting on Tattoo to come by in his little white tuxedo welcoming everybody to Fantasy Island.
Well, when you look at your career in Cup, you've got 17 career wins, but only 1 before the month of May. 3 wins here. Going to be tough or easy getting number 4 tonight?
Well, it's never getting easier in this series. I mean, the competition keeps getting tougher, but it's because there's a lot of great race teams and a lot of great drivers out here, and you know, it can be done. I mean, I think the last one we won here, we started 28th or further back than that even. So, you know, with a new surface, you know, none of us really knew what to expect, but we all watched the Busch race last night. Guys were able to get in the second group, so that's encouraging for us, and I think all the fans are really going to enjoy the race this weekend. But, you know, the hardest thing for us this weekend, you know, we ran that ESGR car at California for Richard Childress, and our chopper pilot, geez, I can't remember Scott's last name now, but from Paducah, Kentucky, he's just got called back into active duty with the Guard and Reserve. So, you know, I lost my helicopter pilot, and we're just praying for him and hoping that he has a safe trip to Iraq and, you know, gets the business done at hand over there and gets home to us.
Hey, Maddie, ask Tony, tell him this is a reality show. And, you know, what we just talk about, I told him this the other night when I was talking to him. We just talk about what we see, and the one thing we see is a common denominator of him involved with a lot of other folks. You know, so, I mean, we're not picking on him. We're just telling what we see.
DW says, Tony, that he's not picking on you. He just is seeing what the video shows.
Yeah, I know. Darrell's memory kind of gets a little screwed up sometimes. I guess he forgets that with all the rule changes he wants NASCAR to make, he forgets that if they changed the rules and took the champion's provisional away, he wouldn't have been able to race the last 2 years. So I know Darrell's doing what he has to do at his job, but I think there's a lot of times what you see on the screen isn't the whole total story, and I think they've done a real good job in the booth of blowing things way out of proportion like they normally do. I guess that's probably what they need for ratings, which I think our sport's doing a pretty good job of ratings without having to butcher up what they see on the screen.
All right, thanks very much for your time. You know, the truth is NASCAR did meet with Tony. They haven't punished him yet, but and you weren't the only ones complaining. Rusty did complain. Casey Kane complained. Jeff Burton, other drivers have complained.
Well, it's like I talked to Tony. I said, look, man, there's a common denominator in all these situations, and it's you. And so that's the best. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and I don't need to defend. People know you won 84 races, 3 Cup championships. I mean, Tony does have one, but he has yet to win a race this year. And Jeff, his crew, they have felt the effects of this to some degree.
Well, I mean, when you're ever the crew chief, whenever you're part of the team, and you've got to back your driver. I mean, whenever I worked for Darrell, whatever kind of problems he got into, they were my problems. So if Tony's catching a lot of flack, well, then Greg Zipperdale and the whole team, if they're the kind of team they're supposed to be, they back their driver, they feel the heat. Again, you know, you don't need that because it's a tough business we're in already. When you're trying to win races, you don't need that kind of adverse publicity, I can tell you that.
And I tried to hire him. I mean, I was one of the first guys. Well, I tried to hire him to drive my race car. Well, and I am a huge fan.
And Tony's good for the sport because he does.
He's excellent.
He does win, and he does have a personality. I think a lot of drivers. But so far, in NASCAR's eyes, he hasn't done anything wrong on the track. No. Correct?
No.
Well, I don't know about.
I don't think he has.
Okay, Darrell thinks otherwise, but that's why we're here.
I don't know.
All right, let's move along. Robbie Gordon's crew. They had happy faces and a few happy meals. They won the $20,000 in the McDonald's drive-through pit championship fueled by Powerade. They had the fastest time on pit road at the last race. In the overall standings, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s crew is in first place. Robbie Gordon hopes to win 2 races in one day on May 30th when he runs in both the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Rusty Wallace, he was just ecstatic to win 1 race. That was 3 weeks ago in Martinsville to end that streak. I sat down with the short track king who's in Richmond. Of course, has won here 6 times, and I asked him to play our choice game, 10 laps with. Phone or email? Which do you prefer?
Phone.
I know why. Easier? You're not a computer guy?
I hate email. Can't stand it.
How about skiing or snowboarding?
Skiing for sure.
Okay, have you ever snowboarded?
No, but there's only one of those things to stand on. I got 2 skis to stand on.
Okay. For your Miller Lite, right? Do you prefer bottle or can?
I like bottles.
All right, I know you have both airplane, helicopter, right? Which do you prefer to pilot and drive?
I have more fun in a helicopter.
Would you like to race airplanes or helicopters?
No, I don't want to do that, because when you bump those babies, it's not a second chance.
All right, we don't want to push it. AM or FM?
FM.
Sweet tea or unsweet?
Unsweet with sweetener.
Okay. How about Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune?
Wheel of Fortune.
Okay. Elvis or Sinatra?
Elvis.
And how about new point system or old point system?
Old point system.
Chris Myers or Jeff Hammond?
Chris Myers.
Oh, that's good. This will definitely make it in. All right, we staged that one, okay? I'll give it up. But Rusty's good for. Of course, he was with us.
Let me help you with your tie here, man.
Easy now. Don't
look how he's dressed tonight.
I know it.
Don't do that. And Rusty was with it. What kind of chance does Rusty have in tonight's race? We know he runs well, but his car has gone through a lot of changes.
He doesn't have a headset on.
Easy now. Easy now. You get along with these drivers.
I tried.
He thought he did.
We're still thinking about.
He's got an excellent chance.
I'm going to be like Tony now. It's Larry and Mike. They do it every.
Yeah, blame the other guys.
I've already said I think Rusty's got an excellent chance right now. He knows the racetrack. He was working on his car. We talked to him last night when he was with us. He feels very confident about it. He's a smart driver, and I think they've got that thing working together.
Yeah, and Rusty did talk to, as he told us last night, Tony Stewart between the incident in California now. But I want to ask you, Darrell, since you've been there from the driver's point of view, whether it's Rusty's side or Tony Stewart's side, coming into a race like this, you know it's going to be tight. There's going to be some tempers. Do you guard against it carefully? I mean, Jeff Gordon kind of had a different approach.
Well, what Tony's got to do is just try to keep himself out of any bad situations for a week. Having a week off is the best thing that happened to him.
I agree.
Let the things cool down a little bit. If he could run a smart race, if he could win tonight, it's all forgiven.
Well, I think his view is things would cool down if we would keep bringing it up. but he's fun to talk to.
Gee, I don't know.
He's a great interview.
Yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate him taking the time to join us. And Tony's getting ready. His mind right now is on racing. Dale Earnhardt Jr., your points leader. It's a narrow points lead. In fact, Jeff Gordon could overtake him tonight. We'll be back here to count you down to the race in Richmond in a moment.